How do you tame your inner critic? Do you think it's possible that you can control, tame, handle, override your inner critic? So let's talk about what it is to have an inner critic. We all have that nagging voice, that voice that tells us that we can't do something, that we're going to look dumb, we're going to look stupid. And there's always some reason, some kind of snarky conversation and reason that our mind is telling us that we can't do something that we are really passionately wanting to set out and go and do. And every creative deals with this. And I absolutely think that every single one of us is this energetic divine being, this co creator, putting things out into the world. Everything that you touch, everything that you want to have in your life, everything that you have an idea about and put together, put and construct in your life, you're designing it. You're designing every little aspect of everything. And so we have our left and our right brains, we have our logical mind, our practical mind, and we tend to live in that space a lot in society. And we have a lot of generational conditioning that has kept the majority of humans in survival mode. As we're nurtured and the grown-ups around us, sometimes without even realizing it, start to program our minds with those same ideas and beliefs. You always have to learn how to be safe. You always have to make sure that you're to have a certain sense of fear for an element of survival. And we need this. But what starts to happen over time, someone had said something to us as we were growing and developing that didn't feel good, that made us look at ourselves in a way that was in a negative light. And we've held on to that. Or we've had someone do something to us where we've put that belief in because of a situation that has happened from our past. And what happens when that inner critic comes in our present moment and it starts to pull things from the past, that's an element of us. That's an element of our shadow side that needs a little bit of attention. And I want to be really particular with this because shadow work is a real thing and it's a real deal. And you can get stuck in this dark, swampy area thinking you're broken and you need to be fixed. And a lot of times that's kind of the hijacking program that the inner critic is on. It's just this record that can run in our minds if we don't know how to tame it, control it, or oversee it, whichever word that feels comfortable. I don't know if you could ever really control anything, but you can absolutely shift the perspective and have a really strong point of view and an oversight into your life. So when you're in any kind of endeavor, and I'm going to call everything a creative project because it is something that you are interested in doing and you're putting forth effort and energy and you're co-creating this new way of being, whether it's fitness, whether it's finance, whether it's fun times, or it's for friendships and fraternization, whatever that is, you're creating some sort of experience, moment, memory. It's not always just an object. And so we always have this inner critic in us kind of knocking at us if we don't know how to tame it. You have to get to a place in your perspective that oversees that these same lines that the inner critic usually will tell us worthy, you're not good enough, who are you, how could you do this, right? That's kind of the same repetitive conversation. You have to look at that and say, is there any truth to that? If there's a truth to that, is there a gap or a hole of something I need to learn? Do I need to plug in some more information? Do I need to be a little bit more prepared? Can I assess things that keep coming up, these same nagging feelings, right? There's a resistance there and I have to figure out what that is. And then there are other times when you realize, no, this is just that same record that goes, something didn't go the way I wanted. I didn't have the results that I was expecting. I expected too much. I just didn't let it flow. I wanted something and I didn't get it. Or I may feel that like things aren't playing out the way that I want them to, whatever the case is, right? These thoughts come in all the time with this inner critic. And what we want to be able to have is a dialogue, a conversation, and quickly end the conversation. And if you keep having this mindset and this identity that you are a creator and you are always in creator mode, what we're experiencing is a resistance within us. And if we can understand that that conversation is really a mask, that we have some extra little things to process, or to let it go. And some of the processing may be just you deciding, I don't have time for this inner debate and dialogue. I want to pursue the things that I want, and I don't want anything to get in my way. I know that sounds a lot easier said than done, but I have been in those situations like you have been, and I understand what it takes. It took a while to get to this practice where no matter what's going on, no matter how difficult it is, I have a focus, I have a vision, I have my own principles. I have a philosophy in the way I want to live. And I know that I can create my reality. I know I can have whatever it is that I want. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen it with other people. I've seen real life examples. And so the criticism is just some weird, old, antiquated program in the mind that was just placed a long time ago. And if we can get some distance, and if we can move our perspective higher up to say that I am this much more enlightened spiritual being, and I'm having a moment, I'm not getting what I want, my internal system wants to have a little hissy fit or wants to get a little gripey or snipey or snarky, that I will tame that like a nagging child, like a child that needs to be soothed so that I can keep moving forward, because I don't want to ever lose that perspective that I have being a more energetic spiritual being connected to a divine source. If I can keep that perspective, if I can keep that sentiment with me, co-creator's another one, was a co-creator connecting and creating with spirit. If I can keep that perspective, and if I have to jump back in and jump back out, but if I can keep that perspective close at hand as a tool, as a lens to put on, when I'm having that conversation with that inner critic, I'm going to want receipts. I'm going to want to understand. And I'm also going to want to know, like, what is really truth? The truth today is not the same truth that was in your past. And if there were big, outrageous, blunderous mistakes you made, you learned from them because you're having this dialogue and you're having this conversation with yourself that's pushing on you. Yeah, you learned the lesson. And if you don't think you learned the lesson, reflect for a little bit, but you're a new person standing in a new experience that it's going to have a different outcome if you so choose. And you can only control so much, but the perspective that you start with is how you're going to end. Those are how the results are going to look to you. Or if you feel like you're already successful moving into a space, moving into an experience, moving into a process, then the end result, no matter what it is, should feel successful because of everything that you've gained along the way. And so we have to practice this internal dialogue of, how do I move this inner critic out of my way? How do I turn down the volume and keep moving forward? And one way that we can turn down the volume is that we don't keep engaging in that dialogue, because usually it's a wrestling, it's a conversation of hearing a thought that is antagonistic, and we either fall for it and we go into an emotional spiral, we believe it, and then we find evidence because we're a powerful magnetic being that proves to us the point that we think we're making. Or we can shift perspective and continue to follow the creative pursuits that we want, whatever it is that we want to build, and we look for examples of people that have also done that. And so we can see that there's proof out in the world that maybe I have not done it just yet, but I know it is possible because, one, I'm already desiring it, whatever it is that I want to put out into the world. And two, I see examples of it in the world of other people. So I know it's possible. I know this isn't just a bunch of people making up stories or living in fantasy, but not actually where they want to be. I see proof of it. And so this tames the logical mind, which is where that inner critic lives. We're overthinking too much. We're overanalyzing too much. And now all of a sudden, what seemed like a really sure thing now is doubtful. Now we're uncertain. And now we have to move through another emotional storm that comes over us because we didn't tame the thought. It's usually the second thought that came through. We didn't tame the conversation. We didn't handle the conversation inside of us and keep moving forward. We allowed that rogue thought to come through that tells us that we're all these things that we're not. And if we believe it, then we move into other emotions that bring us lower and lower and lower down. And so there's never going to be a time where you get rid of the inner critic, that nagging criticism. It's just up to you to decide you no longer want to have the conversation. Think of it like an annoying family member. It's helpful like that. And then you can just say, you know what? Not today. I don't have time for this. I have to get ready. I have to put on my face. I have to put on my vibe, and I have to embody who I want to be today. And I want to step into that power. I want to step into that energy, and I'm just going to go forward with it. And I can only do so much in one day anyway. So let me just try that out, and let me try it again, and let me try it again. And if there's an opportunity to have constructive criticism and to look at things, we still want to have that critical eye. We still want to be able to look at something, being able to edit, being able to know when we need to pivot, and face feedback. But if it's only to tear us down, if it's only to make us feel bad, if it's only just to hold us back and create even more resistance, you really have to take a pause and a moment with yourself and give yourself some space and distance. And maybe zoom out. Imagine you're a bird flying in the air. You're looking from the stars down and just see how big or small or how microscopic that issue becomes when you see the whole world and what they're doing and how many other people are doing the same things that you are wanting to do, but there's a resistance holding you back. And so it's really a mindset, energetic shift. Those two things have to happen together. The left and right brain have to be in sync. Your mind, your intuition has to be in sync with your heart. And this is a daily practice that we want to embody, and we want to connect to this like ultimate source of power in the universe. And it's invisible, so sometimes it's hard to understand that it's always there, but it's always there. Like we're all in this all as one sort of soupiness together. And it's just as simple as you deciding wholeheartedly that you want to move forward with whatever it is that you want to put out into the world, your creative ideas, your writing, your music, your art. Maybe it's just for you. You want to add more creativity into your life. You want just beauty around you. And as simple as that. And anytime some nagging little criticism comes in, look at that as like an actual person. And like, is this really who you want to spend your time with and hang out with? Is this who you want to listen to give you advice? Or nothing's ever good enough? Nothing's ever great. It's always mediocre. Or would you rather be with the friend, with the person that gave you the first inspiration to begin with, that idea that sparked you into wanting all the beautiful things around you or wanting to create beauty in your life? Stay in that vibration. And so over time, you're going to get really good at knowing how to kick those thoughts off to the side. They come in, that's okay. We can't control that. They just come in. Something kind of will be a wave that comes over us, and we're sharp enough in our intuitive skills and our instincts to say, I know where this is going to go. I know how this ends, and it ends with me not doing something. So I'm going to choose a different path today. I'm going to choose a path where I say yes, and I know my inner critic is there, and I know there's criticism and nagging in my head, but I can turn it down because my focus is on what I want to bring towards me and who I want to bring towards me and the experiences I want to bring towards me. And every challenge is just an exercise for an opportunity of something and a skill set that you could learn. So your inner critic is really, think of it as an employee that is there just to give you some research and data. And if it's nothing worthwhile, let it go. Did its job and it's done, and you'll use it when you need it the next time. When it's really important to have a critical eye, to be in discernment and to look at those details, but not when it hinders you. And just stay in that higher perspective, that place where those creative ideas came in the first place, that space, that energy you were in the first place to get those ideas. Visit that. Go back into that space, embody that energy, that feeling, that vibration, so that you can stay there and you can think even deeper and even wider into what it is that you want to create, and really just keep in that same visualization as you're walking that it's already happening. There's no room for criticism because you're taking action. And if something comes up, you're in the moment to deal with it and handle it. We're not sitting back overanalyzing everything. But it gets tough sometimes if we don't have the muscle, that mental muscle, to have that dialogue and be strong enough to not fall for the traps, because those traps know us so well. So stay in that embodiment, stay in that place of that creative, juicy bubble, and just know that you're always going to find a solution. You're always going to move through it, and stay sharp in your vision and what it is that you want to create. And before you know it, it's going to be really easy to turn that dial down and just focus your attention on what it is that you want to go towards, what it is that you're looking to go and do. Prove your inner critic wrong. Look, I did do the thing. Then it no longer becomes an issue. And you prove to yourself, and you give yourself the value. You give yourself the accolades to say you're proud of yourself for just doing it, for just showing up, for following through with what it is that you were going to do. Make that the success, that it was finished, and not that there's some extra quality or value placed on it. And see what happens. See how it changes. See how much lighter you feel walking around. See how much more free you feel when you don't have that judgment. And you might even see that there might be less judgments put on you. You may not take things so seriously. You may not worry about little stuff anymore. It may actually open you up to be more expressive and more open. How deep does your inner critic go? So stay in that vibration of full creativity and inspiration. It's a wave itself, right? We can't always be in the same high, but we can at least embody, even in a more calm, rested place, that space of being in a divine connection and moving through grace every step of the way. I hope this was of benefit. Thank you all for being here. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.